hasn't really sunk in yet, to be honest. I think just because the way the series works this year, because of COVID and everything like that, it's hard to get too far ahead of yourself because of those back-to-back days, and then obviously we're racing in a couple of weeks' time, where once upon a time, if you won a race, you'd have a couple of weekends off, or a couple of weeks off, and you could really sort of savour and reflect on it, and you were pumped because you could sort of spend that time celebrating a little bit with your family and friends and sponsors after. Whereas, I mean, this year you win a race, you do well in a format, and you have to back up again the next day. So it's really important that you enjoy it for a little bit, but then you reset and you go again. So it has sunk in a little bit, but I'm trying to just keep my head down and try to stay focused on a couple of weeks' time.
The body's held up quite well, so I'm really, really happy with that. But now it's all about recovery and rolling through the next 2 weeks to get ready for those big 3 days of racing. I took the positives out of the 3 days of racing. I'm trying not to focus on the negatives. I stuffed up a couple times, but I guess that's me trying to perfect the race. So I'm just not trying to think about that. I think it's time to switch off and then switch on when I need to switch on. So job's not done yet, and we still got massive 3 rounds to go.
I think everyone in the male and the female field would have been feeling pretty mentally drained after those 3 days. So I think this week's about switching off, eating really well, looking after yourself, and just trying to freshen up as much as you can. The work's been done, obviously, in the months and the weeks leading into last weekend, and now it's just about, whatever you need to do to get yourself up to go again. And I know, obviously, all the male and female athletes have trained a lot and have known for a while how this series is going to work, so they'll be good to go in a couple of weeks' time.
I think the big 3 weeks mean you're just rolling through. I think we've done our taper leading into weekend 1 of the Nutri-Grain Series, and yes, we have another big weekend this weekend, but I think the main focus is weekend 2, making sure you switch on probably Thursday or early Friday morning, and getting your head around those formats, and again, just thinking about what you have to do to be consistent in those races, and I think that's going to be really, really important heading into weekend 2. Definitely, I'm ultimately focusing on myself, but the girls I'm probably watching is Georgia and Lizzie Wellborn. I think they're the big 2 that are coming to play, and I think Lizzie's going to be a dark horse. So just watching out for those girls, but again, keeping it consistent for myself and focusing on those rounds. Definitely
a real changing of the guard now. I remember when there was Kai, Zane, Shannon, the icons of our sport, and arguably some of the greatest athletes I've been able to race, and of our sport as well. But to have guys like Finn and Joe Collins and even Jai Timperley, and I'll probably miss a few names there, but to turn around on the weekend after doing well in those races and seeing them come across the line, it's definitely a massive changing of the guard in our sport, and I'm really excited for what the future holds for those guys. I think our sport's in really safe hands, and hopefully I'll be retired well and truly before they really start to kick on.